Hello and welcome to another video where we can finally dive very far into set 10 and get to enjoy all of it. I've been testing that as now all the cards are out. You know, I'm very fortunate to have groups and friends and stuff that we can proxy up these things and test them in different environments to see basically what cards we like and what cards are really working and like how the meta is going to evolve. Is there actually any big game changes or anything? And I think personally, you know, in this video, I just wanted to point out some key cards for people. So, you know, maybe if you're hoping to jump into the next set and you don't have particularly too much time to track and test all the cards, these are the cards that I found after quite a few days of playing, like, are really quite important to talk about and to know what they do and expect to see them played when you're playing against these color pairings. I think in sort of general terms of what decks are good and what decks are bad, it looks like Purple Steel and Blurple are two very powerful decks still because, well, they didn't really... they just got some more tools and they're already well-established decks in the previous set, so they just kind of transfer that over. But it doesn't mean that other things like Ruby Sapphire and Ruby Amethyst can't come back. There's been some really awesome different attempts at it. Emerald Steel, all of the Emerald decks kind of get another new approach as well, new life with the addition of this new song. Malicious, Mean and Scary, and of course as well they can combo that with Prince Philip. So there's loads of really cool stuff, but right now it's still very much the Amethyst decks seem very, very powerful. But, you know, very early on, very testing. Like I say, the decks that are good in the last set tend to carry over for week one, and then quite a few aggro decks will come out and just do all right as well. But we do have some different changes, and I think a lot of people were scared off aggro by Spooky Sight, but I don't think that's the right thing to really do. I think aggro can still very much survive in this new set, and love or hate that news, but I think it still has a very strong chance, and maybe it's built differently, maybe it looks differently, but aggressive decks will always exist in a TCG. But, you know, getting off track, talking about where the meta's at, it's very hard for me to predict it all. Just right now, I could say that Amethyst and Quick decks are probably the two strongest things for week one, but we're looking at all the cards you need to learn and, you know, have a good sort of understanding of what they played and what they're in for. These is my list, and I'll go through each one of them here. So first off, we're going to do the Webby Vanderquack, the 1-drop, and its shift line. The 1-drop is a 1/2, and when you play it, it gives +1 strength to anything. It's just a 1-drop, you know, it combos with the shift line because you need 1-drops for shift line. It's like Rhino and all those other stuff. But the 1 strength, I don't think it'd be underlooked. You can combo it off with like things like World's Greatest Criminal Mind, the ability to give Captain Hook or Calhoun 1 extra strength and take out things like Daisy Duck is really good as well. So I think it's a pretty cool card just by itself. It's kind of the thing that we noticed with the Rhino 1-drop where, you know, it just looked like a 1/2 vanilla, and then people were like, hold on, actually minusing 1 strength for an entire turn is quite impactful when we're trying to do maths on these boards and trying to trade up perfectly. So very awesome card there, and it pairs well with the shift line, which I just think is perfect. This is a shift on 2. It has ward, and whenever it quests, if you have less ink than your opponent, it will put the top card of your deck into the inkwell, so it just ramps you. She is a 2/4 quest for 2 4-drop, and I just think it's really cool. It's very good in a sort of green aggro style deck. I'm yet to see if it lands very well into green blue or something like that, but as a card, I just think it's really, really cool. And I really like that. I really like everything about it. I think it's probably my favorite card of the set as well. But it is sort of finding a home for it. It's kind of the way that, like, there's been a few cards of that in the past. Like, I think Clarabelle has been one where it came out, it seemed really strong and really good, but it took quite a long time to find a home for it. But I do really like that card. And I've been enjoying it very much in sort of different green builds. I have been playing a lot of green. I was going to try a lot of Sapphire Steel, and I've been enjoying Sapphire Steel, but it feels that deck is very much sort of figured out from the start, really, and we already know kind of the game plan of what they want to do. They want to ramp on 2, ramp on 3, and then play a 6 drop down, which is really cool. So I've been enjoying a lot of green decks. I'm enjoying Webby Vanderquack, and I'm really enjoying Green Steel mainly because I've been playing it at the end of set 9. But yeah, this is probably my favorite card of the set, really, this combo, the Webby Vanderquack. Really like it, and I just wanted to hype that one up because I wanted to be paying lots of money for it on Card Market when it comes out, if other people enjoy it. The next one is Mowgli, and on play, look at your opponent's hand. You can take your opponent then picks any non-character, from the hand and has to discard it. It's a 1/2, 2-drop, and it's just sort of, I think Amber kind of probably will just need to play this. There's a lot of like Circle of Life, Steel Song type Amber Steel decks that are going to be using it. I think in Infinity it'll probably be really good as well. Paired that with like green yellow discard decks. But just sort of always think if you're playing against Amber, expect that there might be a Mowgli. So you actually get to pick what you discard. So if you've got a strength and a fire the cannons, you know, you can choose to discard the fire the cannons and keep the strength. So just always think about playing around that. They might do as well if you're a Sapphire deck, you know, they might go for your Sail the Azurite Sea or whatever. So just make sure you've got like a Tipo or another way to ramp in your hand, which is pretty cool. So I think that's all right. A sort of just basically bare set. It's SDs but with a body, isn't it? And a little bit weaker effect, but oh well. Scrooge McDuck, this is one I kind of recently liked. I think it's a card that it's like gonna be played week 1, played for a bit, but it's just shy of being very, very viable in my opinion. I've been liking it in like green, purple, and green steel. I think it has its home there. On play, you get to cycle, you get to draw a card and discard a card, and whenever this character is challenged, you can return it to your hand. So it's kind of like you play it, you cycle a card, you quest, and then you return it to your hand, get your 2 lore, play it again. You know, you can just cycle that through. It's pretty cool. I like it. It always feels like maybe it's 1 cost too expensive, but then if it was 1 cost cheap, it would probably be too powerful. So maybe the stat line, it needs to be a bit different, or maybe if it was just inkable, I think I'd like it a bit more, because I don't want my turn 2 just to be developing a 0-2 cost like thing that quests for 2, so you play it kind of later on, but also it's uninkable, and you know, it can just feel clunky sometimes. But I think it's one to make note. You know, I think cards like Fire the Cannons are still around, Strength of the Raging Fire, and there's a new way to remove this with what's it called, the new song Thunderbolt. Hurled his Thunderbolt or something like that, which is on this. He hurled his Thunderbolt. I was trying to guess what it was when it's on my screen. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I think a lot of the tempo-y green decks will try their best to utilize this card to begin with. Next up is the Black Heron, which is a 3/3 vanilla that quests for 1. It's a 2-drop, and I think it's just worth mentioning that kind of all the steel decks, you know, that before, you know, we had Mr. Smee, which was like a staple that everyone played, and put that down turn 1. No, turn 1, sorry, they played that down turn 2. Mr. Smee, it was the staple, and then you got paired with Calhoun. Then we got hit with the rotation, and it was kind of like, what do we really do? We can play our Calhouns. People were playing cards like Raja in purple steel. Sapphire Steel just kind of didn't play another 2-drop. Amber Steel just went for more aggressive questers, but now you have an option of just playing this like vanilla 3/3 that quests for 1. So, you know, it's not going to be Fire the Cannon removed from an illusion. It fights for the board a bit, it quests for 1, it's inkable. You know, it's just everything they kind of want. It's not doing anything amazing. It's not questing for 2 like Smee was. It's not doing what Calhoun does when it challenges, and you know, and it has its resist 1. But you know, meaning that you later on in the game, you don't brick up if you mulligan into multiple of these, or you know, just in board states where I don't really want this Calhoun in hand, I want to ink it and play this Genie, or I want to ink it and play this Doc, you know, you couldn't really do that with that card, but this card you can. And you know, Calhoun kind of only really feels that impactful playing her on that turn 2. Sometimes later on she's great. So a card of Black Heron sort of is just very important, I think. And there's a few other versions of this in different colors where it's just a vanilla 2-drop that's a 3/3. So just making sure that you know that getting a 3/3 down on turn 2 has become fairly consistent, not having to play like the 3/2 Jafars or the 3/2 Smees anymore. And I know they did that for the evasion buff, but evasions seem a little bit less important this set. So just knowing that consistently steel decks can get a 3/3 down on turn 2 is worth mentioning. Next one is Lexington, which, hello, just a little technical issue there of OBS. I had to start up again, but I was talking about how much I like Lexington. Which is just a 4/4 and the ability to play it down on that turn 3, which also has alert, which means they can interact with those evasions. You know, right now you have a 3/4 Genie, the Steel Genie, that's kind of all right, but this character, meaning they can challenge the Dumbo, it can challenge a purple Genie, it can challenge all of those cards, and you know, also just challenge everything. Like when you play a 4/4 on turn 3, you contest like the 1-drop, the 2-drop, the 3-drop, and most of the 4-drops as well. So I just think right now, going into the first week, where I think evasions will die down a bit, but right now, like having that evasion cover is just really, really cool. So I just think the card's like kind of going to be a 4x staple in most steel lists, in my opinion. The Stone by Day feature, I think, is a bit hard for maybe purple steel to play around with, especially on the draw, getting to like less than 3 cards in hand. But you know, just putting it on the board kind of can sometimes be a threatening enough thing, or you know, being able to hand dump with double spelling or triple spelling or whatever it is you want to do can be fine as well if you need it to ready up the next turn. There is some traps where, a Blurple player could ramp and Elsa exert it and freeze it because, it'll go back to your turn and you'll have 3 or more cards in hand. But I just think the stat line is just so good. It needs to be respected at the minute you play it down. So really cool card. Very much enjoy that. And moving on to the next one is the Cinderella card. At the end of your turn, if you've played a princess this turn, put 1 card from your hand into your draw a card, and then put 1 card from your hand into your Inkwell. 4 cost, 2/3 uninkable, quest for 1. And it's just basically like Sapphire's thing was for a while. It had how far I'll go. They could ramp on 2, and then they could ramp on 3, and then they could get to like a shark, or they could get to Tinkerbell, or they could get to whatever it is. They could get to 6 ink quite effectively. They kind of lost that, but now that they can do that again, it's just really, really powerful. It also sees the princess as itself, so when you play it, you don't need to play in a turn like another princess for it to work. It will see itself, so it gets the ramp on that turn. And if you want to ramp again, you could maybe play another Cinderella or Mulan or something or anything. There's loads of princesses that you probably might not even noticed. I didn't notice some of them were princesses. So it's just giving like Sapphire that ability to ramp on turn 3 as well. It's so strong, so powerful. Just all round, just gonna be a really good card. It's just kind of up Sapphire's game, how quickly it gets to 6 ink, and it doesn't impact the hand too much because it doesn't really replace itself. But and also meaning that it can just play more uninkables as well, which is quite mad. They can get quite greedy because the cards that you ink, it is allowed to be an uninkable card as well. So just all round allowing Sapphire to do more Sapphire things, which in my opinion they do have access to cards like Spooky Sight, yes, but more Saphiring means more aggressive decks, because not like a lot of decks just aren't going to be able to go to the long game with them. They won't be able to last it. So instead they're going to have to try and get under them. And yeah, I'm saying that they can reach by turn 5 or turn 4. They can be playing that Spooky Sight, but if they're doing that, like if you're on the draw, you'll be at turn 3. Like they wouldn't want to do that. They wouldn't want to Spooky Sight like 3 characters. So I think the card's really cool. It enables you to do a lot more Saphiring stuff, and I do like to do some Saphiring stuff sometimes. It just becomes a staple in their deck, and they can be more consistent than ever, really. So green, blue, Blurple, red, blue, any of the Sapphire decks just can do their thing at a better rate, I guess, now, really. So yeah, just one to keep in mind. The Maya, I feel like most people will talk through Cinderella, so I didn't want to spend too much time talking about it. The next one is Maya Wind Dancer. It's a 5/7, quest for 1, 4-drop, and just knowing that like Sapphire, like Amethyst Steel can put a 5/7 down that early on. They're not going to play an elephant. They're not going to play all those other cards. It's worth noting if you're trying to go down a more aggressive route and you think like, right, I just strength the next thing they play. Oh wait, it's a 5/7, and they'll use that and they'll play Bell and they'll move damage around. Just keep in mind that there is now a 5/7 4-cost vanilla card. That's really all to be said on that one. The Headless Horseman, I don't think this card's amazing. Just worth noting that on play it can banish a 2 strength or less character. Kind of cool, kind of Medusa, what's it called? Medusa or Tremaine type, thing. It's a red removal card like that, which is kind of cool to see them getting it back. I don't think that card is really worth mentioning too much. I think I just put it on this list because, hey, people will try it week 1. It is their legendary. It's going to be kind of fun. They're going to try and just do their thing of Little Sisu. Like Ruby Amethyst will probably use this card, and they'll do like Little Sisu and all those things like that, and then just banish things like Nalas and stuff. But all around, I don't think it's worth mentioning too much. But just know that red kind of got access to a Medusa type card again, but for 2 or less strength. The big one that really I think of the set is Demona, which is the Amethyst card, and on play exert all of your opponent's characters. And then if you have 3 or less cards in hand, draw up to 3. So it kind of has a dock effect. Like I think like a lot of the Amethyst Steel decks, what they're trying to do right now is basically just curve out into this Demona, kind of maybe not focusing on doing other things. They just want to go, build up a board, dump the entire hand, play Demona, draw 3 cards, and then exert your entire board and start trading up with it. So really quite an impactful card. I think Blurple as well will maybe not use it for the draw factor. They might just use it for the exert factor. But overall, the card is just very, very impactful. And on top of that, it's a 5/6 for a 6-drop. The quest for 2. I can imagine the Amethyst Steel mirrors are going to be really painful because it'll be like, who's on the play and who demonas first and gets the most value out of a demona is probably going to win it. And maybe Blurple is in a very similar state, because a lot of those mirrors you will, like, as long as drawing elses, you're trying to just keep everything upright until you have a big battle and quest out for game. But yeah, it just feels like that card's going to be so impactful. I think fun things like Sapphire Steel or Ruby Sapphire are going to struggle into a card like that. Trying to keep up with it, you know, it's like crowd control on the board whilst also being removal, also being card draw at the same time. It's just a very powerful card, I think. So that one is going to be really scary. Demona's one definitely to keep an eye on, especially if you pack them or something. Probably keep them. They're quite an impactful card. It's one that I didn't really look at too much. I didn't really look at the Amethyst cards too much, but yeah, it just seems actually quite big and quite important. I think Blurple probably will use it a bit better because they'll get to 6 fairly to the point where they need to, that, you know, they get that ramp on 2. But Amethyst Steel is definitely going to 4x this card out. The Daisy Duck, I think, just if you've got a friend who likes playing Amethyst Sapphire, remember that they'll play a Daisy on 1, they'll Tipo on 2, and then they'll play this 4/6. And what it does is on your opponent's turn, it's a 4/6 6-drop and shift on 4. Quest for 2, and on your opponent's turn, it means whenever they put a card into the inkwell, it comes in exerted. So just kind of like makes things more awkward for you, and maybe you could like aggressively play the game if you went Daisy, sail, play another Daisy, shift, play this, quest, minus them by 1 ink every turn. I think it can be quite disruptive. It was kind of like my dream to play that sort of deck next set. I'm not overly joyed to play that anymore. I don't think it's actually going to be the best option. Missing that combo makes Amber Sapphire quite a underpowered sort of color combo, but just remember that there is if you're playing as Amber Sapphire, be wary of Daisy and be wary of her kind of minusing you 1 ink per turn. And the next one is Goliath, which is pretty. I mean, I'm kind of a little bit underwhelmed by it. It has the same by day feature, but on play, at the end of each player's turn, if they have more than 2 cards, they must discard down to 2 cards, and if they have less than 2, if they don't have any cards in hand, you basically draw 2, like a dock effect, which is pretty cool. 6/5, quest for 2, 6-drop. I think a lot of the Sapphire decks are aiming to do this Cinderella ramp into this. Like, I feel like that's not like a hidden thing that anyone's like going to be surprised if I say. A lot of the Sapphire Steel decks are aiming to do ramp on 2, Cinderella into a Goliath, and, you know, giving you this dock effect to keep drawing cards. It's very easy to play around. You kind of, if it's Sapphire Steel, you know they're probably going to do it. And if it's not Sapphire Steel, but it's maybe Amethyst Steel or Green Steel or something like that, I kind of like think, you know, if a Goliath is going to come down here, what cards do I want to discard? Or maybe I should dump my hand a little bit. And then I've even found sometimes you can just leave your opponent's Goliath on the board and just take the card draw from them every turn. So it's just not, it just ended up not being that powerful a card. I think, especially when we had a card like Demona this set, where exert everything and then draw up to 3. And then, you know, trade up your opponent's board is just huge. Whereas Goliath, it just feels like, you know, a dock effect. And sometimes your opponent, you know, if they're playing an aggressive deck where they can just dump their hand, they can just gain the 2 cards. And as long as they're fine with a 6/5 quest for 2 on board, you know, they can kind of just get on with it. You know, it's not the end of the world. So the card's been a bit underwhelming for me. I think as well 5/6 just feels better than 6/5. 5 strength, 5 health is not impossible to find that damage. 6 feels very hard to find that damage. That could cost you like a Calhoun and a Pete, or a Calhoun and another 3/3. Whereas 6/5, you know, it can sometimes be a buffed 2-drop. You know, hypnotic strength buff a Calhoun and it takes it out. You know, it just the numbers don't feel that great either, in my opinion. But altogether, it's still a good card. It's still going to probably be staples in Sapphire Steel because it is still the best thing they can be doing. So not a bad card at all, but has been a bit underwhelming. It was one I was very excited for. Spooky Sight, I think this is one I could do an entire video on. The card that's supposed to kill aggro. It's not, you know, we played when B-Prep was around. You knew how to play around B-Prep. You petered it. You kept cards in hand waiting for them to play it. They play it, and then you play your cards afterwards. And with this one as well, you get a bonus because you do get ink. So you actually, as well, I found that if you're playing against a deck that Spooky Sights, you just don't ink as much because you keep your cards in hand. And then when they do their very like prescribed line of Cinderella into Spooky Sight, you just play all your cards after that. You know, maybe keep a dock in hand or whatever. So it feels like a very telegraphed card and play around the same way the Be Prepared did as well. So we can even try some things like maybe put some locations in there as well, you know, just to mess up Spooky Sight to throw people off. Be like, well, at least we get these to stick. I think Spooky Sight works like that. Yeah, it's all characters with 3 or less, so you can maybe put some locations in there, like some mines. So even when they do the same way we did to Be Prepared, you know, we're playing that with McDuck Manors and Kiwi. So I don't think this card's like the killer of aggro. It just the thing that also deals with aggro a bit. So interesting card, but definitely going to be in all control decks. I don't know why you wouldn't. It is probably the best way to deal with these early boards. You know, when they're double spelling, playing 3 or 4 characters wide. You know, the best thing probably to do is ramp up to this big answer. But as the aggro deck, you can easily just peat. You can easily just hold cards and wait for them to use it. It is the 6-horse action. They can't sing it. But then again, I don't think that's too bad. Remember, Be Prepared. No one was really ever singing Be Prepared, were they? They were ramping up and playing it down. So I don't think this card is end all, but it's just aware of it in the meta. It's also as well as like there used to be that you Be Prepared, then you play a Hiram, and then you just get back all this card draw. But right now it's Spooky Sight into, oh, I really hope I win the game off playing Spooky Sight is at least how it's been for week 1 so far for a lot of the people I've been playing against. So interesting card. Just be fully aware of it if you're playing more of an aggressive deck, and even if you're not, sometimes, you know, like if you're Amethyst Steel and you're not brand aggro, remember it will take like a few of your cards away. They can even do it to ramp themselves as well. Like it puts it for their character, so the Tipo will go in as well, and the Basils and stuff. So just keep that in mind. No, it's a kind of a cool card. Malicious, Mean and Scary is, I think, the green-blue deck's now gone away from being an Under the Sea deck to a Prince Philip combo deck. It's kind of interesting, kind of cool. I feel like the pieces together are a little bit harder for them to do. But then again, the pieces alone, I think, are better than the Under the Sea. So for Under the Sea, it's Under the Sea and Heads Held High. Heads Held High is a very bad card by itself, in my opinion. Or it's not a bad card, it's just you don't need to use it. Under the Sea is a fine card by itself, but it is an 8-cost uninkable song, which is meh. Whereas this Prince Philip is still a 9-cost 6/6 with evasion that quests for 3. Like, it's still pretty good, and they run the shift line in there as well. And Malicious, Mean and Scary is still like 1 damage across the board is sometimes good enough maths to screw things up, and it's inkable as well, whereas Under the Sea wasn't inkable. So the parts are good by them. They're better than the parts that you had in the Under the Sea combo. You maybe still pair it up and play both, but I think most green blue will go for Malicious, Mean and Scary, Philip, and Spooky Sight in there as well, just to top it off, just to make it all rounded for their list of full control. But yeah, the combo seems fine. Like, green still kind of can do it as well. Feels like green blue can pull it off a bit better because they have cards like Visions to find all the pieces they need. But yeah, overall, just be aware that there is this card that places 1 damage across as well, so it will get past your Calhouns and your Rhinos. But overall, it still feels like getting that combo off is as awkward as getting Heads Held High Under the Sea, or, you know, it's not as awkward. All the pieces are uninkable, and, you know, but it just doesn't ever really come together, and all the aggro decks can zoom ahead or peat, and, you know, give themselves that 1 extra turn. I think it's probably very, very powerful into an Amethyst Steel deck, or, you know, maybe even Blurple, a deck where it doesn't really have a way to interact with that. Like, there's no Mowgli, there's no Ursula on 2, there's no whatever, like 2-cost Ursula, which playing on 2. There's no things like that. You know, Amethyst still has Pete, but it's also not the quickest deck in the world. So, you know, it feels like it's probably going to target those Amethyst decks, and the way that green blue has been targeting Blurple with the Under the Sea and all that stuff. So it's still going to go for the aggro decks as well. I think if Dogs ever survives, it'll be a good like thing to play into Dogs. But, you know, altogether, just not been that impressed by the combo, but be aware that people are going to definitely play that week 1. He hurls his Thunderbolt. I thought this card is fine. It's like probably the most balanced version of Zeus that you're ever going to see. Genie singing this to take out your 2 or 3 drops, the purple Genie that is, sorry, just feels horrible. It feels backbreaking, and it feels very sad if they ever get to do it. But, you know, that's kind of the best place that you can get with this card. There's a few other 4 drops. I think playing Webby in a more control green steel when you shift and sing Zeus is pretty fun as well. So I think that combo works. Like, I think the card's fine. It's like all round statted pretty good. The +2 deity thing is kind of how they justify giving it 1 less damage. Just remember that now there is another steel song, that can deal 4 damage to something. Is basically all you've really got to be thinking. You know, if there's a 4-drop, if there's a shift line to a 4-drop, you know, how can I do it? And I think the card like you fits into any of the steel decks absolutely fine. Amber Steel, even the full aggro Amber Steels, like they're fine. You know, you're going to Rhino Shift, you've got Troubadour, you've got all those options. And Amethyst Steel, you know, they've got sorry, like even Amethyst Steel as well. They have, like to say, Genie, and they've got all these 4-drops as well. If you're still playing Dumbos and Yzmas, or you can just hardcast it, you're more of a mid-range control deck. So yeah, I think that works absolutely fine. Even Green Steel, like any of the Steel decks, even Ruby Steel, come on, you know, it's a good card. It's just all round fine. For pay 4, sing 4, do 4 damage. Junior Woodchuck Guidebook. People are thinking this is the you know, the god's gift to Blurp or whatever. It means they can justify playing the 6-cost Tamatoa again. What this card does is it costs 2, banish this item, draw 2 cards. You know, and then you play with the Tamatoa, maybe you get it on the board for free, and then you pay 1, and you get to pay 1 to draw 2 cards. Pretty cool, you know, all around, great, just fine. Everyone will definitely be trying to do it. I think maybe you can go a bit further and try things like Bells, because if you're not hoping to, maybe you kind of want to just get it on the board, get a Bell out, and then you recycle it with the Tamatoa. That could be kind of fun. I think it's got loads of options in it. I get why people are trying to do it, and as well, I reckon you could easily just carry Blurple over from set 9 to set 10 and you'd probably be fine. Maybe just add the Mona in. But trying out these things like Junior Woodchuck and stuff like that is definitely week 1 testing. See if it's any good. I think it gives me kind of pull the lever vibes more than anything. Like, you know, in a sense, if you're paying at wholesale, it is pay 3 ink, draw 2 cards, but you can split it over 2 turns, which is pretty cool. But, you know, it's really cool to see them justify putting the 6-cost Tamatoa back in. I really did like that in Blurple. It gives you just more grinding ability to go for longer in the mirrors and into other matchups where you have to just grind out the games. I think 6-cost Tamatoa as well, as a body, as a 4/5 that quested for 2 was just great in Blurple. I loved it. I was kind of sad they took it out, and just doing something on turn 6 was great. You know, Blurple kind of struggled with that for a bit. They didn't really know what to put in there. There's cards like TikTok in there. There was the Elsa as well. The Anna, sorry, not Elsa. The 3/6 Anna that gave support and draw a card. So loads of interesting stuff. I think the card's pretty cool. Definitely going to be there week 1. And the Castle Wyvern, which I don't know why, but like literally every time I look at some steel lists, there's a purple steel of locations in there. You know, the Amber Steels are trying this card out as well. It is a 2-cost location, 5 health, 1 to move there, 1 lore pip on there, and it gives all your characters Challenger +1 and Resist +1. To be fair though, with how big the stat lines are in characters in this set, you know, look at Mayor, Wind Dancer, and look at Lexington, giving all of that Resist 1 and saying you have to kill a 5 health location, it's not the worst thing in the world you could be doing. So I definitely understand why the card is being played. It seems really interesting. Taking up deck slots when we've got so much to test just feels mad to me right now, but I can definitely see that card being around. So again, think about that. Maybe they play a very strong 2-drop. Maybe they do play this Black Heron card, and on 3 they move. Play this move and then take a good trade on your 2-drop or whatever. Or maybe you put Lexington out and then you get it and you move. You know, you can do just so many good things with like 1 resist on top of an already well-statted character, which a lot of the set is very well-statted characters. Even cards like Demona as a 5/6 is huge. Even like shift Webby onto move to Castle Wyvern quest, and now you have a 2/4 with resist 1 that's questing for a ton of lore. So yeah, these are just all my, like, just saying that's a really cool location. I think it's pretty cool. It's basically like Hidden Cove but with a lore pip on it. Yeah, these are all of my sort of what I would say is learning these, picking these up. But if you're gonna don't have the time to go through set 10 right now and want to just play week 1, I definitely think just getting a good knowledge of all these cards, remembering that while there's loads of new fun things in, it still looks like purple is going to be very dominant at the top. And if you just want to play your Amber Steel or play your pile aggro deck, I think you should be fine as well for week 1, because everyone's still figuring out exactly what they're trying to do. So that's just all my views, all my takes on it, and I hope some of that's useful.